Hi, this is Attorney Nicole Christie, and we are talking to you today and in this particular series about Alcohol Awareness Month, which is this month, April 2024. And so what I wanted to talk to you about is how does a child protection agency, especially one like DCF here in Connecticut, deals with substance abuse issues, particularly alcoholism. So one of the things that DCF will do is say it's at the beginning of an investigation and they get a report that mom or dad or their caretaker has been drinking and the child notices and went to school and reported that as a concern, that they're scared whenever their caretaker drinks alcohol. So when DCF comes out to the house, they're going to be asking about your alcohol use. They're going to ask how often, they're going to ask how much. I would say the best thing to do in that case is not necessarily go into detail. I would not tell you to lie. I don't believe in telling them to lie because it does catch up with you. But agree to do a substance abuse evaluation. This way you can protect some of that information within that evaluation and talking to that evaluator. 9 times out of 10, DCF is going to ask you to do an evaluation anyway. So go to that evaluation, and there are ways that you can restrict your release of information that you have to share with DCF. Now, I use the words have to share. Yes, you have a right not to share any of that information. You don't have to sign releases, but they're not going to go away until they know that the issue is being addressed. It doesn't even have to be resolved, but it does have to be addressed. And by addressed, meaning that you've identified a provider and you're going to see a provider and you're going to make a plan that you can reduce your alcohol use or stop it altogether. And especially when that use is starting to interfere with your everyday activities and interfere with your ability to parent. For example, you're not able to get up early enough in the morning because you're hungover and so the kids don't get to school on time. Or you are drinking to the point where sometimes you pass out and the kids can't wake you up. And what if there was a fire? What if there was some kind of thing happening in the house that needed your attention and you are not able to be awakened by your kids? And so those are the things that they look at and see how critical it is. And sometimes it doesn't have to get to that point, but if it's something that it's starting to impact your everyday activities, other people are noticing it, your children are commenting on it, it is a concern that you will have to address at some point. And I say address it for yourself and your family, not just to appease DCF. But nevertheless, they're going to ask you to do a substance abuse evaluation. I am a proponent of not allowing DCF to diagnose a client. I won't let a social worker who just met this person, got a bunch of reports, or had a lot of hearsay say that my client has a substance abuse issue. I expect that that client will be going to a professional with a degree who specializes in that area to make that call. And so they will ask you to do that evaluation. They'll ask you to sign releases. Now, when you hire our office, we make sure that those releases are tailored so that DCF has exactly what they need and not all of your information. We want you to be able to go to counseling and say everything. Talk about what's going on with you. Share that information so that you can get the help that you need without worrying that that provider has to now tell DCF all the details. So again, when hiring our office, we tailor those releases to that extent. And so after that evaluation is done, they then send a report to DCF saying this person needs X, Y, and Z type counseling. Now, one of the things that I have seen become a problem is when the evaluator says this person doesn't need counseling and DCF says, yes, they do. And so there is that tension that tends to happen. One of the ways that we try to resolve that is by getting in the middle of that tension and trying to resolve it in one way or the other. Because again, we don't want DCF being the ones to diagnose an individual when they don't have the information, nor do they have the actual credentials, with all due respect, to be able to diagnose individuals. So understand that DCF will not just walk away by you telling them, hey, I'll stop drinking on the weekends. They're going to want to see you engage in some level of treatment. One of the things that I recommend, and I did that in our last video or another video, talking about going to AA. And sometimes, going to AA, it is confidential. And so there isn't going to be someone who comes to court and necessarily testify about what you said or did in AA. But what I have seen individuals do is get someone to at least sign that they attended an AA meeting. And so that's been helpful. I've seen that be helpful in the criminal court. But I really strongly advise, because of information that I've been told by people who've gone to AA and have successfully stopped drinking, this is the best route. And yes, you might need some intensive treatment in the beginning, or you might need a group counseling, but AA is forever. You can go to an AA meeting anywhere. I just saw on a site that there is an international AA convention happening in Canada this next year. So think about those avenues and think about those different ways you can get help for yourself. Again, DCF is not going to go away based on your word. Another thing that DCF likes to see is tests, substance use tests. And so they want to make sure that you have negative tests, or tests that are clear. There is nothing in your system. But if there is a positive test, they're going to want to see you not have any more positive tests. And so sometimes they will do those tests through urine, but because alcohol goes through our system pretty fast, sometimes they will use a breathalyzer. One of the ways that we try to, aid our clients is by giving them different options. We have connections to different providers that can help you establish your sobriety. And there are times when your sobriety is key to getting your children back, if that's one of the reasons why they were removed. And so again, DCF isn't going to take your word for it. They want tests. They want to see that there is nothing in your system. And so you've got to be really, really careful when you have DCF having custody of your children. Substance abuse cannot be in your language. Substance use cannot be in your language. You can't have alcohol a couple of times. I had, someone that I knew, they went to treatment but drank on the weekends. And so, they got a check mark for going to treatment, but they kept drinking on the weekends. And so it was still a concern for DCF. So understand that alcohol, especially alcohol abuse, has to be something that is addressed, and addressed aggressively, because it could be the difference between you getting your children back or not getting them back. And again, I'm not saying any of this to scare you. We want to help people get their children back. I'm a firm believer that if God gave you these kids, it's for a reason. You're the one that's supposed to raise them. And no, parenting is not easy. Parenting, no one's perfect at it. Kids do not come with a manual that says treat this child this way. You could have 4 kids and end up with 4 different manuals, and the manuals are going to be different based on their age and what stage they're in, or what stage the family is in. So kids are complicated, but they are wonderful gifts that we have. Little mini me's running around the house, or someone that looks just like your father and who passed away, and you look at them and you look, that reminds me of grandpa, that reminds me of my grandmother. And so these little children, these little people, even the 16-year-olds, they're a blessing. And so we want to be a blessing to them. We want to be grateful for having them in our lives. And even if substance abuse is an issue for you, it doesn't mean that you're not entitled to parent your children. It just means you might need to get some help so you can parent your children. So if you ever need assistance in dealing with DCF, if substance abuse has come up for you, or alcohol issues have come up for you, don't hesitate to contact our office. We're not just a law firm here to take care of your legal issues. We're here to also support you, give you the resources that you need, or try to connect you with the resources that you need. So take care. Bye-bye.